Welcome to the Voiceover Round Table. I'm Mike Tobin.
And I'm Emma O'Neill. Every week, we get together to talk about all things voiceover, with a special focus on community.
Bringing you in-depth interviews, roundtable discussions, special performance events, and industry-leading guests.
Let's get started. This is the Voiceover Round Table.
And just like that, it's 7:30. Oh, how to not end the music abruptly. We had a budget for a DJ tonight. Look at that. Can you still hear me? Yes.
Yes.
And here we are. Look at that.
Are we here?
We are here. I mean, it you know what? It feels so strange, but it feels so good. I'm going to jump right in. Want to say good evening and welcome to everyone. The room is filling up really quickly. It's so awesome to see so many of those avatar faces and names and faces that we recognize and maybe new ones. Tonight is about a lot of things. The Voiceover Roundtable was started by voice actor and VO North co-founder Dervla Trainer. And through much of the early part of the pandemic, we gathered every Sunday night, bringing on a lot of great guests and having some really good discussions, and most importantly, giving you, the voiceover community, a place at the table where you could learn and share and celebrate, gripe a bit, and grow a lot. So we're really happy to be back. And tonight also serves as a reunion of sorts for so many of you who were, I want to say that I'm going to use the word really electrified by being together in person back in September at VO North in Toronto. And if you weren't at VO North, don't worry about it. There's going to be plenty of discussion tonight that'll help you make decisions about whether to attend a conference, what to expect, do's and don'ts, and like so much more. I'm going to dive into an introduction because I want to hear her voice on the Clubhouse. My new multi-award-winning voice actor, uber-talented human being specializing in PSA, commercial, TV narration, and corporate explainer. She's a multi-business entrepreneur. She does so many things and does all of it really well. And she's an awesome personality, and I'm very happy to call her a good friend. Please welcome my co-host of the Voiceover Roundtable, Emma O'Neill.
Wow, that's an introduction. Should I put on my voice actor voice? No.
Emma.
Oh, hey, what up?
What you saying?
I'm really excited to be here. It's been Mike and I had a conversation about this just after VO North, because people had been talking to us just randomly about restarting the room. And it was like we both contacted each other at the same time, which was quite funny. Yes. And it's really, really taken off really quickly. We've got some amazing guests lined up for you tonight, obviously, with Tanya and Mike. Really excited to start delving into the topic of this evening and to get you guys up on stage when the time is right. But also then for the next 6 weeks, we've got all sorts of people that are volunteering their time and expertise to share with you guys. And I'm really, really excited to share that with you, but not just yet.
And I think one of the cool things in communicating with you, Emma, and you've really taken the lead on this right now, at least when it comes to wrangling some cool guests, is we're going to be doing some stuff that we didn't necessarily do as much in the past. And I don't want to show any cards too much yet, but I think everybody's going to be really excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think we're going to be doing this every Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Sunday was cool. It was chill, but depending on the time of year and what was going on, sometimes it was really hard for people. So I'm really looking forward to what we have in the coming weeks and months ahead. And we are going to do our absolute best to bring you a fun club and to bring you a club that gives you value and gives you a voice. And that's what the Voiceover Roundtable is all about. Another introduction to take care of. He is a loyal contributor, supporter of the Voiceover Roundtable, and an all-around great guy. That's in his bio, so we got to say that. Promo and imaging voice heard all over TV. Like when my wife's watching TV, it's hard that this guy is in my house constantly. Commercial, narration, corporate VO. He's a podcaster. He's a writer. And most famously, I think,
My voiceover husband. Exactly.
Emma
Yes.
O'Neill's voiceover husband.
Oh, wow.
We'll explain that one at a later point. But if you ever went to the movies over the last, I don't know how many years, and were told by the in-house entertainment system before your movie to not turn your cell phone off, and we became friends with somebody named Tommy Texter. Well, the voice involved in that was none other than our good friend Mike Pongracz. Welcome, Mike.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Michael. That was lovely. Yeah, it's a walk down memory lane tonight. It took me a while to remember how this app worked because I don't think I've been on Clubhouse since we did our last Voiceover Roundtable. And I saw that I celebrated my anniversary, and there's like a note in there saying, "Congratulations, you've celebrated your anniversary on Clubhouse." And that was from like 2021, I think. So it's been a while. Just been a little bit of a time, but I'm excited. This is great. My voiceover wife is here, and Mikey's here, and the fourth member of the panel is here, who deserves an exceptional introduction as well. Not only for what she does on a daily basis, but also for what she was part of building for not only us Canuck VOs, but also for the VO community in general with VO North. So I will let you do the big intro, Mikey.
Oh, well, we're almost there because that's, we're very, very fortunate to have her with us tonight. Credentials would go by, I would say, owner and senior agent of Toronto-based voice talent agency, my agent, Tada VoiceWorks, and also the co-founder of the Voiceover Conference of the North, as it's called, VO North. Please welcome everybody, Tanya Buchanan.
Hi, guys. So nice to see everybody's little pictures down here. A lot of friendly faces from VO North. Little reunion here. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for making time to join us, Tanya.
We're thrilled that you're here. Thank you so much. And especially for the first one back, it felt really appropriate to reach out and ask you to be a part of that. You and Derv, and it would just so happen that you were available. So thank you very much for joining us.
And to
I've got a glass of wine here, so I'm all ready.
That's appropriate. I see you got dressed up.
I did.
I wore my best T-shirt. I know that you'll be able to say a few words. Unfortunately, Dervla was not able to be with us tonight due to a scheduling conflict. She wanted to be here, but I'm sure that Tanya will be able to say a few words on Derv's behalf. They're partners after all. But Tanya, the thing that came to mind, and I kind of mentioned that in the intro, is, boy, there was a buzz going for weeks after the conference. Just people were so electrified was the word that I used in the intro, and there was just such this huge momentum. I saw it in the Facebook groups. Obviously, I saw it in people inviting me out to coffee with them that I'd never interacted with before the conference. People creating accountability groups, which is something we'll talk about more, I'm sure. Did you notice that buzz? Did you feel that electricity that followed after the conference?
Oh, absolutely. And it was not something that was a given. It certainly was questionable. We hoped, but with everything with the pandemic, we weren't sure, if people would want to gather, and if they did, if it would work. There were a lot of hesitations. We went back and forth on that. So to see how it came together, and something that we couldn't have planned for, and like you say, the magic that happened, and the sparks that happened, and the joy of people seeing each other after so long, only seeing each other on Zoom and everything else. I mean, we certainly couldn't have planned it. So it was really, really nice to see. And you're right, Mike, it totally took over afterwards with a lot of things continuing on. So happy you guys are bringing back this round table, and that's sort of just one of the things that sort of was an offshoot from that. But certainly, and as we say, people are still talking about it, which, we're happy it happened that way.
Definitely a good thing. We have a lot of questions. Obviously, we want to chat about VO North and your experience and stuff like that. And we'll be bringing some of the people up on stage to maybe share their experiences of the conference. I'm going to let my co-host Emma dive into the questions and throw the first one at you.
One moment, please. Let me pull up my list. My handy dandy list. I'm just going to start from top to bottom here, but I'll just go one at a time. Because this is something that I was really curious about. And it's kind of a two-part question. What was the most memorable moment of VO North 2022? But also thrown in there, what was the most memorable moment of the entire conference over the last 5 years?
Oh, start with the toughie, huh?
Woohoo!
There's so many great memorable moments, but I would say everybody's going to have a different memorable moment, and I think that question can be quite personal. And for me, what meant the most is actually the closing ceremonies, to see friends and colleagues support us in the way that they did, and really come together. And for those that were there, it takes a lot to make me cry. But it was bittersweet, but mostly sweet, just to see that, everything that Dervla and I have worked for over many, many years has made a difference. And, that's all we could have hoped for. That's all we wished for. It was never a money-making venture. And so it really was a passion project for me. So that was the most memorable for me, was closing ceremonies. I enjoyed having an offsite event this year, which I thought was really great, to just get out of the hotel and do something a little bit different.
It was so fun.
And I think the most memorable overall, for a different reason, I think, is the way that we were able to pivot. And I hate that word, but I'm going to use it anyway. The way we were able to
pandemic lingo,
to pivot and do an online version that actually worked, and as best we could with not a lot of time, not a lot of resources. I'm super proud of that. And I think for me, it was the most memorable. The whole event was probably super memorable, because if those that know me, have zero tech abilities whatsoever. So to leave a conference in the hands of technology was very scary. So the end of that, and having that, I think overall for all the years, I think that was pretty amazing that all sort of came together.
And the online version, I had attended a couple of conferences online during the pandemic, and not because you're here, just because it's the truth. It was the best online conference I attended.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so well organized. All of the different rooms, even the party night of throwing people into different rooms and rotating and doing all this stuff. It was, you never felt bored. Like, it was just always, you were kept on your toes. It was really engaging. It was very entertaining, and so worth the value for money. It was literally probably the best one that I attended, and I think I attended 3.
Well, it was, and our goal with that really was to try and make it as personal as we could without being in person. Yeah. So we really, really tried doing things like and we'd been to a lot of, not just voiceover online conferences, but what was working at other ones, what wasn't working at other ones. And I'll tell you, and you can take this in your personal life and take it out of VO. I honestly do believe that when you do something that you love and you do something with passion, those are the results that you get. Mm-hmm. It was, other than, that's why we did it that year. That's why we did it continuously. And I think it came across that way because it was coming from a real place.
Yep, I agree.
Because we could have cut corners. We could have, done it on the cheap side, made a little money. We could have, done a whole bunch of things. But I just wasn't interested in that. I wanted to make it memorable and make it the best that it could possibly be. So,
you accomplished that very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the online edition was a great pivot, to use your word, Tanya, and it worked so well. And I think that it was kind of primed us for coming back together in person. People we were seeing either that we met at the conference online or in different groups on Facebook and stuff like that during pandemic when we're locked down and cooped up in our, little video state. When we finally got to see each other in person, wow, it was so cool. I want to go back further because I'm so curious to know, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room are, because you said it's, doing a voiceover conference is not necessarily a moneymaker, and it's what you might call a labor of love or a passion project. Take us back to the beginning. What was that spark that made you say, I'm going to do something?
Well, it's fun. It's actually, the story behind that is really, it's all Dervla. Dervla had the idea. She was working on doing something for the community, and she had seen, particularly in Toronto, that there were one or two meetup groups where people would come and, have beers with each other and just get out of their booths. And she thought, why can't we do this on a bigger scale? It's really important for us to share knowledge and get together, and it was happening on such a small scale. She wanted to make it bigger, and Dervla was and is one of my talent, and so I got wind of it, and I thought, oh no, if somebody, I was glad to see somebody like her was doing it, but I also had reservations because one of the big things that I was seeing across North America and beyond were a lot of conferences or workshops, etc., being put on by less than, what's the best way to
say it? Say it. Go on. We're in a safe space here.
Yeah, just people I wouldn't want to take advice from. And it had bothered me for years and years. And I thought, how can I get around, how can I combat that? Well, I'm not going to go, bashing every conference and every person, and I don't have the time, and it's just not my style. So I said, what's another way to do that? Well, it was just at the right timing that Dervla had this idea, and I said, can I help you with this? Just because being an agent, I have, a lot of contacts that people want to hear from. And I thought, if you get the right people in front of people, I think this can really go somewhere. But if you get the wrong people, this might be a disaster. So it was just sort of timing that came together, and I had reservations. So I did not come on board officially in that first year, which was 2018. 18, yeah. But I helped her get all the speakers for it, and it seemed to work really well. So at that point, it was only a one-day event, and it was just for locals pretty much. We had some people coming from outside of Toronto, but not much. But it was enough to see, can this work? And Dervla did such an amazing job. She's got an event background, and she did such an amazing job of putting it together that's when I was on board full force after that.
Yeah, she is a force herself. So she
And
did an incredible job.
That first one was at that little place, that Creative Collective down on Carlaw, I think it was, which that was my first foray into VO North. Was moderating panels on that one, and yeah, it really to what Tanya was saying. At that time, there seemed to be this explosion of, I don't want to say conferences, or there were more people trying to recreate things like FAFCon. I don't know if anybody out there remembers FAFCon, which was one of the original sort of
Fantastic
collectives
event,
where talent basically ran the conference. It wasn't the standard. You have expert speakers, and then you just sit there and take in what they give you and so forth. You sort of design the conference as you went along. And I think out of that, there were a lot of talent that took that to heart and tried to sort of recreate that. And I thought it was very cool because what Tanya was saying, the meetups we used to have in Toronto, I know one that I think Rob Leo Hill had set up. And of course, the one that I'm most familiar with was when when Pat did the old, was it the
Oh yeah,
Firkin and the Frog?
it was the
I
Frog
can't
and
remember.
Firkin way up
Frog and
north.
Firkin. That's right. And those were awesome because you did get this collection of Toronto-based voice actors just hanging out, having some drinks. They would have one or two speakers that would sort of do a little spiel, and then you just mingled. And I thought, when Dervla brought that up to the next level, I thought, what a brilliant idea. And now to see where it wound up, I mean, the lineup that you guys put together, I mean, to have an Eric Bauza, to have a David Kay, that's pretty cool. And Eric
Mm-hmm.
was thrilled about just everything. And, I thought it was very cool to see how it went. Sad that this was the last one, but I'm sure something else will be born of this because it's too. I think it's too important, and to sort of let it just go away. But I know how much work goes
Mm-hmm.
into it, and the fact that you guys pulled that off. I mean, too many hats off to you for doing that.
I think you nailed something though, Mike, and I think it was one of the most important things, at least from my perspective, is not to have people there just lecturing and just, spewing their information. And we tried to make sure, and that's why we always usually try and do panels of different people on the panel, because there isn't just one right answer to anything or one perspective to anything in what we do. So much is subjective that I find having more of a discussion format was, and having that from the beginning and continuing on that was much more valuable to a lot of people from talking around to people than just listening to people present. So we did keep that going and made sure that all of our speakers were comfortable in that format. And I think it worked really nice.
I
And if
think
I
we're going
could,
to take a cue from that spirit, Tanya.
yeah.
And, in the spirit of Clubhouse and the Voiceover Round Table, I know there's a lot of people here. I see that the chat is very active. It's great to see all these faces. And we, of course, we want to hear from you. We'll have some more questions for Tanya in the meantime, but hand raising is activated. So if you have a question for Tanya or for any of us, or want to share an experience about VO North, if you were there, by all means, please raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage. We'll have a little discussion about it because that's what this is all about. To
And
segue
I'm
into,
reminded. Sorry, I was
yeah,
just gonna say, Mike, and I'm reminded why I kept coming back because I was the policeman of this.
Yes, this
Was I
is
not
mm,
the curmudgeon of
absolutely
the clubhouse?
pants
Don't
pulled up
mess
in the
around
front
when you're
yard
up
with
the,
your
on
fist
stage.
shaking,
the bouncer,
shaking
we'll
the
call it the
fist.
bouncer, maybe.
I still remember that one guy that we had that one time that just it was yeah. So we love to have guests. We love to have people ask questions, but please try to keep it relevant to the topic as best as possible, so I don't have
Yeah.
to go all old man on the lawn.
Oh my goodness.
Because he
Yeah.
totally will. He totally will.
Of
But
course.
if I may segue one of the questions to
Yeah.
Tanya, with the topic that was just covered, I want to know who shocked you the most, who accepted, which speaker that you sent an invitation to or said, hey, would you like to do this? That you were like, oh, wow, totally did not expect you to say yes.
Every year there's always one, and we always when I'm trying to come up with a list of people, the first year was a lot easier, and even the second year, because I just went with people who I knew I had some connection with, and every year it got harder and harder because yeah, I know a lot of people, but it goes beyond that. And now I'm having to go not just with my circle, but the second circle and the third circle. So for sure, it has to be Eric Bauza. I was shocked. I thought and you know what? It was not easy. And I think and again, it was one of those, him and I know him, and we kind of had that. I used to work with David Kay back in radio, and so we're friends, and David Kay and Eric Bauza are friends, so it just kind of circled there. But I didn't actually even know that David Kay and Eric were friends until afterwards, but it sort of just turned. I went through every way that we could. Dervla was going through Facebook friends. We were like, we need to get Eric Bauza. We need to get Eric Bauza. We just felt this connection, especially because he's Canadian and everything he's done. And we thought it really came down to we were going to move on to somebody else. And then we actually the whole time went through his managers. And so even right up till start time, neither of us had talked to Eric at all. We'd only gone through managers. So we were like, is he actually like going to show up? I sure, like we bought a plane ticket. I hope he shows up. So yeah, that was for sure a bit, because he's not on the circuit. He doesn't do other conferences really. Like this is very unusual for him. And which again was what I tried to do, is not have the people who are speaking all the time at every conference have people that you might not know their name, but they're very active, in the business. So yeah, that was for sure. I was super, super excited about that one.
Which was also one of the highlights of the conference, was Eric showing up late to the panel. And I think kudos to Garnet Williams, who was the moderator for that panel, the animation panel. And they had set up this thing, and I think it was David that had mentioned it. When Eric gets here, just everybody boo. And so I was out in the lounge area, and Eric comes, coming in, and like, oh, there's Eric. He's going in. As soon as he walked in the door, I forget who I was talking to, and I said, "Watch, they're going to boo him." And as soon as the door opens, all I hear is boo.
And for those who weren't there and didn't hear the story, it was an hour-long panel, and he was 45 minutes late. So when you talk about somebody running a conference, and I think that was one of your future questions, guys, it's like one of the hardest moments was me chasing Eric Bauza down this year. It was quite and he's an extremely, he's an amazing guy, but just has no sense of time whatsoever. So it was a lot of chasing Eric this year.
Which was amazing, because the short amount of time that he was on stage was beyond impressive, and how he sort of he fell into the routine and sort of showed some of his techniques. It was amazing how much quality you got in that short span of time. Had we had him for the full 45 minutes or for an hour, mind blowing, but it was still very cool just to see, because my experience with Eric, we used to have a podcast years ago, Garnet, another voice actor, Dave McRae, and we had interviewed Eric on our podcast. This was before he blew up into the Bugs Bunny. I think it was just post Marvin Martian, and such a gracious guy and so kind, and he was so excited about a Canadian based anything that took an interest in his career. And the things he said about the conference and about the Canadian voice actors, you would think that he had no idea that we had this much love for him and this much love for the business up here, because he found his fame and fortune down in LA.
Very true. Very true. But he was just such a lovely guy to be around. Besides him being super tardy, but he was still really lovely.
And also doing
and with that whole thing, I wanted to
the victory lap to say goodbye to everybody before he left. Yeah. He was impeccable walking around to make sure everybody got sort of like a, hey, thanks, bye, gotta go. And,
very generous with himself.
And that's another thing too. When choosing speakers, I would also take a look at, and quite frankly, we don't pay our speakers. So it's really important. The reason we don't pay our speakers is because it was important to me to have people who are passionate about the business, who are there to give back to the community. So of course, we pay some of their expenses and things like that, but we don't pay our speakers. And that's why, as I really wanted people like an Eric Bauza, like a David Kay, who are just really in it for the right reasons and not there to sell their things, to make money, et cetera, and having some, as I say, because I just saw Callie Calliope in the, she's gone now, but one of the casting directors.
She's here.
Oh, is she? Those are the type of people that I wanted to surround not only myself with, but have everybody else see that there's some really, really cool people in this business. And I wanted to make sure that they were a part of it.
And I think the thing about being in person, and one of the things that you discover as an attendee, is that a lot of the magic happens. Sure, there's great stuff during the panels and the, when you go up to read for a casting director or things like that. But a lot of the magic happens, when you're leaning against that wall or sitting on the edge of the sofa in the hallway or bumping into somebody down in the hotel bar or whatever. There's so much magic that happens, so many connections that are made, so many, things that kind of materialize that happen very organically as a result of the whole, the big machine of a conference. But it makes it really, really magical, I think. We're coming up on, we've just come up on the halfway point, or in theory, our halfway point. We typically like to keep the night at about an hour. So if you just joined us or joined us kind of midway through conversation, this is a Voiceover Round Table. My name is Mike Tobin. My co-host Emma O'Neill and Mike Pongracz is hanging out tonight. And our special guest is Tanya Buchanan, the co-founder of VO North, the Voiceover Conference of the North that took place in September. We're chatting about all things VO North and about conferences in general and stuff. And this room will happen every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope you'll make it part of your Tuesday evening routine. I asked for hands before. Nobody is raising a hand. Nobody wants to.
We have one.
Yes. We'll take this one right away because I'm. Welcome, Jodi. Oh, Jodi.
Oh, is it not working?
There's Jodi.
Woo, there it is. Hello.
Welcome, Jodi. Great to have you back.
It's good to be here.
What's
I
going on
miss
tonight?
you guys. I miss seeing
Not
your
anymore,
faces.
you don't. Oh, faces, yes.
Yes, faces.
I keep
but
waving
I actually,
at the phone.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention that part of the reason why I love these conferences so much is exactly what you were talking about, in that I love those conversations that happen in the hallways. Like, that is the reason I go to these things, because you never know who you're going to get to spend quality time with. Like, Mike Pongracz. Like, Mike, I haven't seen you in person in like so long. And it was just great to lean against a wall in a hallway and chat, like that was just so much fun,
And that's
Yeah.
that really is, like you were saying, it's especially for voice talent that have done the conference thing before. And this isn't to sound like, you've been to one, you've been to them all. But after you've done a conference and you sort of get a lay of the land, year two, you kind of realize that, it's the connections that you've made before. It's the time in between sessions. It's those quiet moments. You and I sat there. There's nobody else around. Everybody else is in some session, and we're just sitting on the couch catching up. And it had been so long. And those are the moments that make you want to come back to those conferences and sort of make those non-Facebook friend or non-social media friend connections, because everybody's got 1,000 Facebook VO friends, but if you really dig deep, there are maybe a handful of people that you've actually spent time beyond sort of texting or messaging, where you actually get a real feel for that person. So it was so great. And Jodi and I go back to the days of the Frog and Firkin too. So
I was helping
very
Pat
cool.
organize that stuff. So that all started because Pat and I had a coffee together. So we were doing that for quite some time, and I miss him a lot. That was great for a really long time. Love doing that.
And for new voice actors, just to sort of follow up on that one-on-one, that's actually a really great opportunity. If you are a new voice actor and there's somebody that maybe you look up to, maybe you've seen their work, maybe you want to reach out, but it's more personal than just, like in LinkedIn. If you just send a LinkedIn request to some random person that you want to work with, it's different than actually old school picking up a phone and talking to somebody, or actually sitting and really getting a feel for who you are and introducing yourself. That's a great thing for conferences. If you're new to conferences, if you're planning on going to conferences, those moments, because you never know how those things can turn out. Years ago, Cliff Zellman, for those who probably know, the king of auto spots, same idea. I had heard a lot about Cliff and his automotive work. He did a lot of spots for, I think it's Radio Vision. I think he's still there. And he was a highly respected producer and had a great ear and an expert in his field. And just getting a chance to work with somebody, you know, after hours, sitting at a table, reading automotive spots, and then riding up an elevator with Cliff after the first time I met him, and he's like, "That was really impressive. You know, let me get your contact info." And we ended up working together, and we ended up becoming friends. So those are moments. If you're new to conferences, absolutely take advantage of those. Everybody's personable. Everybody wants to sort of mingle. So don't
Yep.
be afraid to go up and talk to somebody.
You want to
Well,
know how Pat and I first got together? Over a message board in 2008.
What's
We
that?
were in the same city, and we met each other at Julie Williams' voiceover. She had a message board in 2008. So
Wow.
we decided we would get a coffee, and we met on there.
Now, Jodi, hang tight, because there's a question I have that really relates to what you and Mike were talking about. But Teresa is up on stage, and I had the pleasure of meeting Teresa at VO North. What's
Hi,
going on?
Teresa.
hi everyone.
Hey, Teresa.
So nice to hear your voices again.
You too.
Yeah, so Mike uh, touched upon relative newcomers, that it's of great value to attend such conferences, and it really was. Like, it was my first in-person conference, and I met a whole bunch of people, including you guys, and obviously some friends that I already had, but it was just such a great experience. Learning, meeting, networking, and challenging myself as well, like going up to read in front of the panel and doing the one-on-ones and the workshop. It was all great. And thank you, Tanya. It was wonderful.
It's equally as
Thank-
wonderful for me too. I get to meet people that I never see or I have never met, and we definitely got a lot out of it as well. And Teresa, thank you, because I didn't know Teresa well at all. I think maybe had some email exchanges in the past, and quickly got to know her through other people as well. When I panicked and we needed somebody to fill in, Teresa was so gracious, and I was like, please help, we need somebody to so you never know what can happen.
Instant
Yeah, it worked out well.
panelist.
That's it. It's like my first in-person voiceover conference, and I was a panelist. So hey, you never know what's going to happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. The question that was coming up, and I'm thinking about how, like Mike and Jodi, you were saying, the experience, depending on where you are in your voiceover journey, if as a newcomer, sure, a conference is a place to just amass information, attend panels, listen in, get valuable insight. There's so much, you just have to be a sponge and take so much in. But one of the things that you kind of notice in Facebook groups and different things like that, the attitude that people have towards conferences is that for some people it seems to get a little bit harder once they get a bit of experience. And I would even venture to say that some experienced talent get pretty jaded about conferences. And I'd like to put it to Tanya and to the group. What recommendations do you make to someone who maybe has some years behind them, and how do they come to a conference and find value?
That's a great question, because for those that don't know, I actually started as a voice talent myself, and it's one of the things that was lacking. There weren't really any conferences when I was doing voiceover, but there were a lot of workshops, but there was nothing for people who'd been in the business for a while. It was all about getting into voiceover. How do you get into voiceover? So I always sort of kept that in the back of my mind, and I was like, oh, okay. So not only did we try and include some things that are for more experienced people, but I think there's two things I suggest, and this is from my own experience of going to other conferences like VO Atlanta and stuff is you really have to have what you want to get out of it. And when you're more experienced, I think Mike hit on it. A lot of that is having conversations with people in the hallways. That can actually be more valuable than the content itself. As an agent, I can tell you that I have met people at VO Atlanta, at FAFCon, that if they had emailed me with their demo, I may or may not have, may not have been the right timing or et cetera, et cetera. But when I can put a face to the name and we've had a conversation or a coffee in the hallway, I have quite a few people on my roster that I've met at different conferences. So I think, there is value just in that, regardless of where you are in your journey. You can have been in the business for 20 years, but you always want to be meeting and having further conversations, even with colleagues that you may know, but might want to get to know a little bit better, especially those that are the ones that are hiring or agents or, those kind of people. So I think that there's a lot to be said with that. And when I was a voice talent, I would always try and pick sort of people that I wanted to have those conversations with. So, of course you get some things out of the content, but you're right. A lot of it is for people that may not have 20 years in the business, but you've got those panelists that are, in the hallway or they're at the Starbucks getting a coffee. So I would certainly have a list of who do I want to just magically bump into in the hallways. And I think that is the value that you really need to see as somebody who might have been to lots of conferences and seen lots of different content that they've already experienced is really taking the experience to the next level by using it as a networking opportunity.
I think
And
one of the
I would
things
say,
that
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say one of the things that I've noticed, and I tried to make a point of it too, is as more experienced talent, people like Mike, people like Jodi also go in not thinking, what can I get out of this, but also what can I give? As parts of the community that have been doing it for a while, we were that, shy person in the corner trying to get started. And, I felt very fortunate the first conference that I went to having someone who kind of just took me under their wing and said, come on over. I want you to meet Tanya. And, the rest was history. And come on over. I want you to meet so-and-so. And so that's some more magic that I think that as more experienced talent, we can help make happen.
Absolutely. I mean, Jodi
newer
Krangle was the person that did that for me, and Eric Romanowski, who I believe is in the audience. They both, at my first voice conference in person, were kind of like my touchstones. I was like, I know you. Help. So it was to have people that you connect with, that take you under their wing, that are willing to just hold your hand and introduce you to a person and just make sure that you're okay. It's massively, it makes such a huge difference.
And it's so unique. It's something that you don't see in every industry. And the fact that voiceover, has such a great camaraderie and that people are willing to share and give information and give back is like everybody I've talked to from the on-camera world and other, they just can't believe that we have such a supportive community. It's pretty special.
It really is.
And to further to what Tanya was saying about, voice actors that have a few years on them, let's say, for me, like Mike was saying, yeah, there's a bit of cynicism because now conferences are being, I don't want to say run, but many of the keynotes are people who were around, after I started. So the value that I get, there is some value from what I'm hearing. I mean, you can always learn from your fellow talents. But for me, it's really cool when you do have new talent that aren't exactly, they haven't swam long enough to sort of realize there's some sharks along the way that you got to navigate. And for me, that was what was really cool at VO North, was getting a chance to talk to some talent who may be so overwhelmed at times, and being able to say, you know what, it's cool. I was there. That's normal. And, take a step back, and here's, you don't overthink it. You don't have to sweat it. And just being able to reassure talent, like, hey, you've got the goods. You're booking. You have booked. You've got something to offer. Just let the process happen and you'll be fine. Like it's almost, it sounds weird, but it's very, parental in certain aspects for talent that have been around.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Dad.
but it's real, but that makes me, I guess that's kind of like, elderly people in society. I still feel like there's a value that I have
Yeah.
uh, outside of just VO. And that was probably the highlight for me, was being able to talk to some talent who see social media and see all these voice talent who seem to be booking millions of dollars of jobs, monthly, and sitting there going, I'm drowning. Like I just
Mm.
lost this client. I'm not making, nearly as much as everybody else. And I'm like, hey, here's the thing. Of the, 200 people here, maybe 80% are probably, doing the same numbers that you are. There's maybe a fraction that are doing really, really well. You can't trust social media and, everybody's perfect foot forward. And just being able to like go, oh yeah, okay, then I guess I'm doing all right. Yeah, you're doing fine. Have
Can I
fun. Enjoy this.
can I just mention one thing? As someone who attends these, who's now been to a few of them, it takes the pressure off. Like I have to say that, I'm not pressured because I'm not worried that I'm going to miss a particular panel. I don't need to be at every single panel. I can go to the ones that I really am interested in. It takes a lot of the pressure off to actually just enjoy the surroundings, to be there because you want to be there and you want to talk to people and you want to experience what's going on. And yeah, you can attend panels, but I enjoy talking in the hallway just as much as I enjoy attending the panels. And I'm very picky about the panels that I go to.
Are you picky about your hallways?
Depends on who's in them, yes.
Right. Speaking about people in the hallway, well, actually on the edge of the stage, I'm going to say hi to Bridget. What's up, Bridget? Welcome to the Voiceover Round Table.
Hi, everybody. Hey, it's so nice to hear all of you back again. This is the first Clubhouse that I've been back to since you guys left too. So thanks. Already lots of valuable information. And the question that I have is I've never been to a voiceover conference, and I definitely want to go to one this year. And this is a very sort of scheduling technical question, but I've noticed that a lot of these conferences, you can either go for the full weekend or you can go for the former, the latter, like the beginning or the last couple of days. Do you have any recommendations for what portion, if I should go to the whole thing if I can afford it? What are your thoughts on that?
My recommendation would be to do the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole thing, because it's different days have different offerings, but it's especially the beginning and the ends of the conferences. This is where you make the most connection, especially at the begin. Like if it starts on Thursday, I arrive on Tuesday or Wednesday, because you have the opportunity to really connect on a much more personal level with people because it's less crazy.
Right. Okay, that makes total sense. Thank you.
And sometimes there are offerings that are, we'll say, more exclusive, or maybe they're an add-on to the conference that you have to pay a little bit more. For example, at VO North, the Friday was the intensives, and so to have the chance for less than what you would pay to have a one-on-one session with one of these coaches, but to be in a room with maybe 10 or 12 fellow talent and to have access to these high-level coaches. For that kind of experience, that's worth it too. So, yes, conferences can get expensive, but seek out those very tailored experiences that speak to you. There might be something in your niche and things like that.
And Mike, can I just touch on that? Because we got a lot of questions about expense and why are tickets so expensive and those kind of things. And you touched on it, but you have to put it in perspective that, it would cost you I don't know what, $150 to $200 an hour to have a private coaching session with somebody. You're getting all
US.
the you're getting all these people for, ours was, close to 400. Some of them are 500 or more. I mean, it's still a huge bargain and it's also an investment in your business.
I was just going to say
and
that. My
making it
business
go
coach
forward.
always says that. He's like, there are no expenses in business. Everything is an investment. He's like, you have to flip your mindset. He's like, I'm not talking about just spending money willy-nilly. Just goes, it's an investment. I bought a whole bunch of TikToks. Like buying random crap. But it's just about seeing it as an investment in what it is that you're doing.
People
It's a
need to
huge
get over
investment.
the whole, oh my God, it's so much money. It's so worth it though.
You get so
It
much
is.
from it. So much.
Yeah. Yep. Bridget, did that answer your question?
It certainly did. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Hope to see you again on the round table.
You will. Thanks.
Geo. G sounds good in the house.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I just have to say that for those that have been to VO North, we've been spoiled. And truthfully, I don't know if another conference would compare because of, again, so much time and effort and energy that Tanya and Dervla have put into it to make it appealing for those that have been in the industry, like you guys said, for a while, or the newcomers. And I mean, some conferences are huge. Like you feel like truthfully, I haven't been to, I would say the biggest in quotation marks would be like a WOVO. And even then it felt somewhat intimate, but if you don't know anybody, it can be a bit intimidating. And it is that magic of interacting with people in the hallways and whatnot. So I just want to give a huge thank you to Tanya and Dervla for creating an environment where it was just right in the sense that you could make these connections and continue them, and still feel buzzing. Like I'm buzzing. I'm and sad at the same time. I'm like, has there been talks about who would take this over, and it has to be Canadian, because even that aspect, having the Canadian aspect to it, and then also accommodating the US. I noticed you did that this time around, and I'd have to agree, Tanya, that on the oh my gosh, the online conference, phenomenal. Like
Right?
they
Like
really
brilliant.
go out of their way. Like we got a box, and my neighbor is a like an events, whatever the heck you call them, an events, like she does these online things, and I had to show her the box you did, and she was like, can I see that? Because she was floored with how much effort, and even the box itself, where we had a cup, so that way when we had our virtual Badalgo, what's it called, guys? I'm so sorry, I'm having like brain, yeah, I'm just saying.
When we had the
Anyways,
sponsor, the drink night,
yes,
that we had like
but
the
it
little
was like
paddles.
thought of in advance, and like all these things. It's just like the attention to detail. Like truly, I can see why you're like, damn, I need a break, but it is heartbreaking at the same time.
Oh, don't make us sad, Geo. We're trying to be happy here.
No, but
But I
honestly,
get it. It leaves a
big
big void.
thank you, and yeah, I don't know if any, like, for those that have had the opportunity to be at VO North, it's very rare. And also Jodi, I remember, and thank you too for the VO at the Goose and Firkin, no, the Frog and Firkin, the
The
God
frog
Adventure.
and firkin, yeah.
Yes, that's where I first met Tanya. And so I
Yay!
remember that.
There we
Yes.
go.
And that was an offshoot too, if I don't mind saying, when we did our oh my gosh, Deb's VO class thing there. And then,
Deb
do you
Monroe?
remember that? Yes, Deb Monroe.
Yeah.
Do you remember that,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was
we
a
go
long
back.
time ago. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Anyways, a lot of talking, and now I will listen.
Aw.
Love you all.
Love
Love
you
you,
too.
Geo. Thanks for hanging out. And you know what, Giovanna was also a big contributor and a sponsor VO North. So definitely part of the crew, I would say. Tanya, she touched on a bunch of stuff, talking about the virtual conference where you and Derv, put so much thought into preparing these packages and the experience and the event of the flow of everything. Here's a question for you, not just about the online version, but the conference in general. What's the hardest thing about putting on a voiceover conference?
Pleasing everyone, which you'll never do. There's always, well, why can't you do this and why can't you do that? And there's a lot, as you guys have touched on. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of thought that goes into each piece of the puzzle. We spend 9-10 months preparing for all of this. So there is a reason for everything. And, you're always going to have complainers, and we get that, but it still hurts sometimes. And you're like, we've worked so hard. Well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. So, you kind of have, I'm lucky because being an agent, I have a bit of a tougher skin when it comes to things like that. But it's, it's trying to please everybody and trying to, the beginning is always hard. Trying to get that first speaker to join. It's always like the first big one, and you get the first big one, and then they're like, wow, like David Kay this year was the first one I got on board. And then when you get David Kay, then you can start going, well, but David Kay's coming, you need to come. And then, but getting that very first one and somebody to say yes right away, hey, we're not going to pay you, but can you come all the way to Toronto and do this and this just from the kindness of your own heart, right? So that's tough, but that starts to flow.
Yeah, and you, like you said, you get leverage once these people see who they're going to be presenting with, and the group that they're going to be part of, and the experience that they're going to be part of.
And it just builds and builds because, really, to be honest, from the first year, a lot of it was favors that I called in with people I work with on a daily basis. They didn't know anything about VO North, and they're like, I'm not going to give up my weekend to go talk to people and things like that. I'm like, come on, please, just for me. And then they're like, okay, fine, right? And so once you get that build, then you can go, okay, well, last year we had this person, this person, this person, and they agreed to do it, so I think you should too. And then every year, and that's why, we keep building every year and able to get, well, David Kay was there last year, why can't you do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I was just keeping an eye on a chat, and to what you were saying, Tanya, that it's so hard to please everyone. I will say a good bonjour to all my francophone speakers. Noticing in the comments, some people were kind of remiss that there wasn't as much French content, and to let them know in the online conference there was a bit more French content that Tanya and Dervla were able to present.
We tried so hard this year.
It's hard, man.
And we could not get any speakers to agree to come without getting paid. And not one of them would. I probably approached maybe 5 or 6 different people. And so we originally had a whole session on French, but we just couldn't do it because nobody would agree to come.
It's hard. It's hard.
And they missed out on all the coffee crisp and all the poutine and all the, which I don't know. I think some of our newer American guests this year, I think that alone was probably enough of a draw to have them come back.
Were there ketchup chips?
Did we have ketchup chips?
So wrong.
I don't think we did.
There should have been.
I don't think so.
Wrong.
Hey, Smarties alone. The Smarties alone were a big hit. So.
And Franz was downstairs.
That's true.
That's true.
I want to try and grab one last quick question from our audience members, from Michelle, who's been waiting patiently up on the stage. Welcome, Michelle. Michelle?
Hopefully you're still there.
Gotta hit the mute button.
See a microphone in the lower bottom part of your screen.
I had to turn my mic on and off for
Michelle,
it to work.
are you there?
Yeah.
Is it
Sometimes
Michelle
there's
Darrensburg?
While we're waiting for Michelle, I just see Eric Romanowski in the audience here. And we did get the poutine bar, particularly because I saw a whole bunch of discussion on some of the Facebook pages that Eric had never had any. And so we got that, and I wish I had a camera to show you, but he sent both Dervla and I the most wonderful thank you present. And I don't have it with me. It said something like, look pretty and eat poutine. So I think I was very excited to have that as a part of the conference this year.
Okay,
Michelle, yay, it
Michelle.
worked.
Yay! I had to leave and come back in.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not a question. It's more of a thank you from the bottom of my heart, because VO North literally has changed my life. And I'm going to get really emotional, so if I cry out. And I met you, Mike. I talked with you for a while too. And this, for me, was life-changing and spoiling, apparently, from everything I'm hearing, because one, it's the last one and I managed to make it. And two, it sounds like you spoiled me for anything going forward. But my life has taken such a trajectory since this event, and I can't thank you enough. I met a mentor at the event. I met people that welcomed me with open arms at the event. I went full throttle, full in, after being very isolated for the last 2 years, and only doing online things. This was my first ever in-person event. I'm local in Toronto. I live here. And I found, and I see some very familiar faces down in the group. I don't know if I see some of them. I found a local accountability group. I met people now that I can actually see in person, which is what, for me as a human being, I really was missing over the last couple of years. And I just have to say thank you, and agreed. And at some point I will probably blog about it. I know Teresa blogged about it, and I'm sorry, but we did not get to meet in person, Teresa, because I've met you virtually for a while now at other events. It's just, I'm really sad it's the last one. I do hope, and I'm just going to put it out there, that somebody else picks it up. I know it's a lot of work, but you don't realize how many lives you are touching and connecting in such profound and impactful ways. Just thank you very much.
Now I'm crying.
I know, right?
I'm not crying, you're crying.
It really has changed everything for me for so many reasons. I recognize so many faces in the group that's on this page right now. Whether you met me in person or not, I saw the majority of you that were there. I took it in. I was the wallflower standing in the back, and I started first with Eric Bows's intensive, and I went straight into Ellen's. And that was my first in-person VO things ever in my life. And it was phenomenal. And now I am doing so much in person and putting myself out there. And I honestly don't know if I could be where I'm at right now. This is where I'm going to get emotional, so I'm sorry. I don't think I would be where I am right now if it wasn't for VO North this year.
Oh,
So I just need to say
That's
thank you,
beautiful.
and I'm going to stop because now I'm really going to cry.
I think, you know what, Michelle, I'm sure you would have gotten where you needed to be, but
It's just-
maybe VO North was some wind in your sails, and it's so
Yeah.
beautiful to hear a story like this.
Absolutely.
That's what it's
Thank
all
you
about.
so much for sharing that.
It's
Thank
been
you, Michelle.
nonstop since then, though. It gave me the wind, it gave me the momentum, and I have just been going full throttle since then. And I needed it more than you could possibly realize. So just big hugs to, okay, I'm gonna stop.
Big hugs to you, love.
Hugs to you, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh. And now,
Well, how about that?
for the comic relief portion of the show,
We have
Tim
Tim Ratledge.
Yay, Tim! Hello.
Let's see you follow that up,
crying
buddy.
into my Reese's in the corner. This
stop
is
it.
nothing. I can't follow
Radledge is
that.
crying, that's for
Sitting
sure.
there stealing my kids' candy and crying into the bloody wrapper. That's not fun.
I love it. I love
Man.
it. The feels. We got the feels tonight. How's it going,
So
Tim?
beautiful.
Oh, I just wanted to share that I was in the studio on Thursday and Friday doing a session in Toronto at Bolt at Young and Bloor. and I walk in to record, and the first thing I saw, because I know he's in this room, was an Ear Blowing Productions pen. And I thought, that's awesome. And it means to me that somebody from the conference was working. So somebody got that pen, unless Eric's selling them in Toronto, like anonymously. Or he handed out 1 million to people in Toronto. So someone who attended VO North, be a professional, was in that booth before me at some week, and they left that pen there, and they had that pen. So somebody did that, and I sent that pic to Eric, and I just wanted to say that's just so cool because it brought back memories of that. So it means that, someone had the experience of VO North, and being a rookie or being an experienced person, they were there, and that what it could have being a VO North could have led them, and the experience they learned could have led them into that booth. Who knows? But it's the power of sponsors and the power of the marketing.
Definitely.
We've gone a little bit over our time, but this is really good. Tanya, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you okay to hang for a little bit more? Or
just a little bit more. I'm getting a little hungry, but I can definitely stay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One of the things that we always tried to do in the past with this group and this room was to provide value, much like you did with the conferences, you and Dervla with the conference. Maybe starting with Tanya, and we can go around the room to some of the talent also. What would be a golden piece of advice for someone attending a voiceover conference for the first time? Tanya goes first.
Look at what you got to take it all in and just experience it all, and just I know, I had said also to have sort of a plan, but you also have to have a loose plan. Things happen, there's new speakers that you meet somebody and they say, let's go out for dinner. And, you just got to go with the flow and just take it all in. And, and then learn to apply what you've learned and the people that you've met, and, don't just leave it there. Take what you've learned and bring it forward. And give back.
Yeah, I love that. Mike P., what say you?
Be you. Be the authentic you. Don't go to a conference after, again, I always harp on social media and how many people present themselves. Go there as you, because if you try to pretend you're something you're not, it's a lot easier for somebody in person to read that. Like, they'll smell it a mile away.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, that just adds on to the anxiety that you may have if this is your first conference. If you're, maybe you're not having as much success and you're trying to get, trying to make this be the turning point. Be you, because I'm telling you, once you meet the people that you want to, talk to, possibly a mentor, possibly people in an accountability group, you want them to meet you and see the real you, as opposed to some fabricated fake VO person that you think you're supposed to be. My wife used to make fun of me because when I worked in radio many years ago, I had a fake personality. And, Tanya can relate to this in that radio people tend to have their on-air personalities, and then you get them off the mic and they're completely different people. My wife hated that guy. She would lambaste me. She's like, "Oh God, there's that Wyman guy again." No, it's just be you, and trust me. This community, as we saw with VO North, everybody is so welcoming and so kind and so giving, and not just because we're Canadian and we say sorry all the time, and but it's literally, we're just good people. And most people in VO are good people. So you don't have to try hard. My kids would say that. Don't be a try hard. Just be you.
I go to Emma O'Neill. What say you, Emma? What's your piece of advice for somebody attending a conference for the first time?
This is specifically for the introverts in the room. I know it might seem shocking, but I am a complete introvert. And so for me, especially going to the first conference that I went to, it was terrifying. The idea of actually going and being in a room or a building with that many people that I didn't know was pretty much overwhelming. But it was one of those, I set it as a kind of challenge for myself to do, to go, and to experience. But I made sure to, again, I had my Jodi Krangle and I had my Eric Romanowski and I had Bev Standing. There was a few people that I had that I knew I could kind of reach out and like I could just appear beside, like, hi, I'm kind of freaking out, don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Can you just, thanks. So find your people, find the people to be with, and go and experience it, because like Michelle was saying, these conferences will change your life. They will change your career path. They
Yep.
will enhance your life on so many different levels. So yeah, go.
Beauty. I have one last question and I'm going to put to Tanya. But before we do, we did invite Hattie the Rock up on stage. How's it going, Hattie?
Hey guys, how are you? Hi Emma, Mike, Tanya. Hope you guys
Hi.
are doing well this evening.
We're
Nice to see
good.
you all.
It's great to
I know
have you,
I
buddy.
thank you for having me up here, and I got a chance to meet all of you actually for the first time in person at VO North. I know Tanya and I'm part of Tanya's team, and Mike and I have known each other for a little while over on social media. But we never really, and we've talked a little bit back and forth here and there through LinkedIn, but got a chance to meet in person, and I think just to go about this question about attending my first VO conference was for me is, having built some of those relationships a little bit ahead of time through social media, and and sometimes just reaching out and saying hello, or even commenting on somebody's post and developing those relationships. And if you do happen to go to a conference, you've already established, I think, a little bit of a rapport with some of those people that you might encounter at those conferences. So it makes it a little bit easier than just showing up there and going, oh my God, I don't know anybody. But if you take the time to cultivate some of those relationships ahead of time, I think it makes it a little bit more comfortable. And it just, when you get there and say, hey, Mike, I know. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Oh, hi, Emma.
Hey, look,
And from those
3D.
Hi.
You 3D.
exactly. Yeah.
That's what we were saying the whole time.
Exactly. And, so those are the things that I think that going to your first VO conference, and this was my first VO conference. And yes, I was kind of, I won't say intimidated, being this is my second year in VO, but I also felt very comfortable because I've already established some of those relationships ahead of time before going there. And I knew that, Emma was going to be there, Mike was going to be there, and Tanya was going to be there. It's like, okay, well, this is great. I already know three people that I already have a connection with that are going to be there. So it just made my stress level a little bit lower, I guess, if you want to say that. And it just made the conference a lot more enjoyable for me because now I didn't have to worry so much about, trying to fit in, because I know I already knew some people in there, and if I just needed to Emma's point, if I needed to, to feel a little bit more secure, it's like, hey, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you
Yep.
again. How's the conference
Yep.
going, kind of thing, So,
And
but
a lot of
that
these conferences have like Facebook attendee groups. Like we had one. I know
Yeah.
VO Atlanta probably has one. So it is worthwhile. That's a really good point, Hattie, to join these groups ahead of time and maybe have a few conversations with people and sort of
Yeah.
follow along. That's a really
Sow
good
the
point.
seeds first. Sow the seeds first. Yeah.
absolutely, and that's what for me and anybody that's going to be attending any. I'm gonna do the VO Atlanta next year just because it's. I had a really good year in VO, so the budget is there. So I'm
Good.
gonna go and attend VO Atlanta. I know Emma's gonna be going. I
I'll
think
see you there.
I'll see you definitely there. So there you go. I already know somebody who's gonna be going, so I'm not gonna be lonely.
Nice. Oh, thanks, Hattie.
Thanks for having
And
me
it
up,
was great
guys.
to meet you there in person. It was awesome. Um,
Likewise. Thank you,
I
guys.
wanna throw one last thing to Tanya, but in a way, I'm throwing it out to your partner. Tanya, maybe you can share something about your partner Dervla, who couldn't be with us, but obviously a big part of making VO North what it was. Oh, I hate saying that. But yeah, speak to maybe your partner Derv.
I think one of the the magical things that came with our partnership is the yin and yang, which I always think is important when you're creating something. And Dervla has this magical way of thinking big, of dreaming, of having amazing, sights for things where I'm a little bit more realistic and I kind of go, I don't know if that's going to happen. So I think that we really sort of came to this middle ground in so many cases. She's equally as passionate about the business as I am, and really wanted to give back, and her business level and her insight into events really just takes it up a level. And I'm kind of more the person going, we can't afford that. So I think that
It's all
without
about balance.
yeah,
There
I
has
think
to be that balance. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I think without her dreaming big, VO North wouldn't have existed at all. But, there's a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have done. And without, me having that, let's bring it down to earth, we'd probably be in debt hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, we have, it's a really good, and I think that you need that in anybody who's leading a conference or any sort of thing is to have, when you're doing something with a partnership is, and hey, we fight. And I think it's important, we don't agree on everything, but that's where the magic happens too. And that's where ideas come. It's like, okay, we'll butt heads and then go, oh, wait, there's this over here. And I think that we're both very, because we're both passionate, that comes about, but it also, we're both very, when we sort of step back, we're able to see each other, hear each other and hear other ideas. But certainly VO North wouldn't have happened, obviously, without her. And it certainly probably wouldn't be at the level that it became because of her. So yay, Dervla.
Yay, Derv. Mike P, some closing words from you tonight as we wrap up.
Again, I know everybody seems very sad, and everybody is talking in terms of, was great. It's not, goodbye forever. It's goodbye for now. You never know. And again, with every person that's come to a conference, there may be somebody amidst that conference that has this spark and the desire and the gumption to do it again. And I still think it'll happen again, whatever form it takes. I do think it's important that there is a Canadian conference, as weird as that sounds, because there is a distinct difference between how I think we operate up here and, even our friends to the south. I think, especially, from standpoint, promo in the States, very different than what I experience up here in Canada.
Absolutely.
So to have somebody, to have that talk and that discussion up here with experience that are relevant, I think that's super important. And, let's face it, it's nice not to have to hop on a plane sometimes when you can just hop on the GO train. That's just me. But I really do think that VO North has done an amazing service to the VO community, especially in Canada.
Yeah.
And again, kudos to Derv from the start, to Tanya. Like, it's amazing what you did for the community. And I know how insane the amount of work that goes into something like this, and the fact that, Tanya, you're still running the day biz there and pulled this off,
And somehow still have a husband.
Again, kudos.
Somehow my husband hasn't left me.
Yeah, well, there you go, and a family. So it's that is a true gift that you have, and thanks again for everything. It was very cool to be a part of the first, and especially cool to be part of the last one, especially to watch Tanya.
Yeah.
I was going to say, especially to see Tanya maybe choke up a little bit during the closing.
Just a little bit. And I'll leave you with this, and I'm not leaving, and that's the whole point, is VO North may not come around as the same, in the same way, but VO North is not going away. So I would just maybe stay tuned for maybe some other things that we might be hatching. So I'll leave that. I'll just mic drop that and say, don't. We're not riding off into the sunset, people. We're just maybe changing things up a little.
I feel like the guilt trip tonight has worked. I think we've lathered it on thick.
See, folks, we did it. No. Emma, what's going on? Final words from you tonight.
This has been so wonderful. I'm so glad that, Mike, you and I had this conversation about bringing this back, and that so many people in the audience had approached us to do this.
So there's some magic that came out of VO North right there. I want to say thank you to every single one of you who came up and said, hey, you know what? That voiceover roundtable thing was a lot of fun. You should do it again. I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to do all by myself, but I'll think about it. And then Mike was like, let's do it.
I'm like, hey, so do you want to remember the VO roundtable? Do you want to do that again? He was like, I was just talking to people about that.
It's been awesome. What a ride it was, VO North, and the electricity that ensued afterwards. Tanya, a big thank you to you. Thank you to Dervla. And we should probably say another thank you to all the other people that were involved behind the scenes. I know, Tanya, you had a ton of volunteers and your panelists and your moderators and everything like that. There's a lot of wheels in motion there. Mm-hmm. Tanya, you go ahead. I saw you on.
Yeah, I was just it couldn't have happened. I thank you for bringing that up, because between the volunteers and again, our speakers and our panelists are not paid. It's, our thank you, Mike, from the very, very beginning, Pongracz, who's, donated his time. It really was a magical coming together of people who just wanted to give back, and we couldn't have done it without everybody's help.
Thank you so much for being with us, Tanya. And that is going to wrap up our voiceover roundtable for tonight. It's been so fabulous being back. Hasn't it, Emma? Hasn't this been great? It's therapeutic.
It's been wonderful.
Thanks to Mike P for hanging out too. Thank you to everyone who came up on stage and all of you who hung out and listened. We will be back next week, Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Voiceover Roundtable. Keep an eye on your social channels and stuff, because as Emma was saying in the beginning, we've got a lot of different themes and kind of things in motion that we're trying to have land in different spots on the calendar, and just being the start and getting things started. We do have people who have committed to coming on. So we got a lot of exciting announcements in the coming weeks and the coming months. So keep an eye on your socials as to what next week will bring. And that's it. I'm going to let Emma O'Neill have the last word.
I'm just grateful that we brought this back and that you guys all showed up and shared your time and energy with us. And Tanya and Mike for sharing the stage with us. And Tanya, for everything that you do for this community. I'm really, really grateful to know you. So thank you.
Goodbye, all. But not goodbye. Forever.
Just see ya. See you next time.
Good night, everyone. Everyone be safe. Take care. We'll hear you next week sometime. Take care, everyone.